I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Emmy winner Keith Cunningham, and also with Ian Scroggins, Supervising Art Director, and Halina Siwolop, Set Decorator. The full team's here with us today to talk about one of the most beautiful, best-looking shows on TV, Perry Mason. First of all, everyone, congratulations on your Emmy nomination. So well deserved.
Thank you so much, Robert. We're thrilled to be nominated this year. It's 2 years in a row for Perry Mason.
Like, the Emmy voters obviously really like what you're doing, and there's so much more that happened in season 2 in terms of the look and feel of the show. So I'm really happy. Do you agree that it's like a nice pat on the back from your peers to say, we really love what you did in season 1, but season 2, when the showrunners let the sun shine in, so to speak, they loved it as well and gave you another nomination. How does that feel, Keith?
Oh, it feels amazing, and I appreciate you appreciating that. That was definitely part of the the decision moving forward with season 2 was literally to sort of open up, expand, enhance the look and feel of the show. Obviously, respecting season 1. I didn't design season 1. I came in season 2. Luckily, we had Halina carry through on both shows. But yeah, the showrunners, HBO, Team Downey, they all wanted to, like you said, literally bring Perry into the sunlight, sort of embrace this California warm sun, vast expanses of space, and just bringing in, appreciating the sun, sky, and sea of the landscape. So obviously a noir sort of story, but we wanted to literally bring it into the light.
Yeah, and so many of the creative team on this show came in for season 2 because it was more like a refresh. Exec producers Susan Downey and Amanda Burrell recently explained that they really just wanted to kind of reboot or reset the look and feel of the show, with so many of the, like Catherine Adair's costumes, which are just mind-blowing, and then of course the work that you guys did. So Ian, when you're coming onto a show like this, what was that? How did you get involved? Was it just a phone call like, you want to join Perry Mason? I mean, talk me through that.
It was basically that. Keith phoned me up and said that he was doing the show, that he'd been prepping it for a while, and that there was an opportunity to bring me on. And I was thrilled and leapt at it as soon as I got the opportunity. I was in the middle of another show, but as soon as I could extricate myself, I got to join the team. And he's a great guy to work with, and Halina's an amazing decorator to work with. And so joining the two of them and having them already have their heads fully in the scene and being able to get caught up by them, it was kind of it was a really fortunate position for me, because I didn't have to discover everything firsthand. I had two great guides, catching me up, since I wasn't along for the ride the whole time. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
I can only imagine. And Halina, you were one of the old crew, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. So why do you think that you remained on? Like, talk me through that, because if everyone else had changed but you still remained on, is that just because you're so legendary in the field that they just felt like they couldn't go forward without you in it? Oh, Halina, you're on mute.
If only that were the way. Yeah, not at all. First season was really fun. It was a wild ride. And I met Keith and I was like, I'm on board. This guy knows what he's doing, because they were making so many changes, and it just sounded like it was going to be a really fun time. We really did have the dream team, and I had already spent 10 months learning about the 1930s and had a whole storeroom full of 1930s set dressing. So that was already a bonus for us. And I don't know, I love that period, and the people were great and the stories were good.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't know a lot about the look and feel of Los Angeles in that time. For whatever reason, it's just kind of, it's a bit of a blind spot for me. So it was so satisfying for the viewer to feel like I was being transported. And, you know, the story was very compelling and the actors are amazing and the scripts and so forth. But I just found sometimes I would be staring at the screen thinking, how on earth did they make this look so authentic? So I'd like to talk a bit about some of the sets that you all created together. For example, that gambling ship, I didn't really know that kind of thing happened back in the day, and it makes a lot of sense. What was the thinking, and I guess, Keith, if you want to speak to this, what was the thinking behind the look and feel of the gambling ship that was just off the coast so they could do whatever they like?
Right. I know, isn't that great? That was a detail we all read in the sort of prelim treatments and the first draft. And again, the writers and showrunners did an amazing job of research, because there was a number of things, like you just mentioned, that were just sort of eye-opening in terms of what LA was like in the 30s, right? And again, like, gave us so much great background and subtext. And you know, knowing that this era, I mean, the whole country's in a depression, right? So it's in this incredible depression, but at the same time, LA is growing at like an exponential rate. And so we've got, you know, we talked about the contrast of these worlds within the show, and it's all about power and vulnerability and glamour and glitz. And so to open the show was sort of like a reveal to start in this sort of, it feels like a nightclub kind of vibe. And here we are in all the beautiful people and the beautiful, you know, scenario with the gambling of the era, which is just a treat. Again, like, you know, the amount of detail that we got to bring to a set like that was amazing. Incredible prop department, locations, obviously Ian and Halina. But just to sort of dive into the research about what was going on, just, you know, 3 miles outside of, you know, off the shores of Santa Monica, where the gambling was legal out in the open water, right? And there was a vast array of you know, designs and styles of these ships, these cargo ships and clipper ships that were repurposed to be these gambling vessels. So to open up on sort of a reveal where we started sort of what feels like a casino, and this sort of Scorsese-like tracking shot that feels like a wonder, where we're just meeting all these people in this great right vibe and following this character down into the bowels that turns out to be a ship, and then with the nefarious, you know, plan to sink it, or, you know, at least cause damage to it, was it's fantastic. But that was, and then again, that's a jumping point design wise to later sort of contrast that or juxtapose that against, like, you know, the Hooverville. Again, two sets of scale. We know we wanted to get some scale into the show, and also movement. That was another thing that to expand upon. Season 1 was about literally moving the camera, giving the DP and the directors more room to maneuver, not maybe be as disciplined and structured as the sort of vignette approach was for season 1, where they literally wanted to move throughout. And so that gave us a great opportunity to sort of expand these sets and create like transition zones and scale and make them all, as much as we can, like a little labyrinthine, you know, just to again, like, reveal and again, like, sort of give this scale of the show, you know, to work with what the scale of LA was and how it was growing.
That's right. Yeah, it blew my mind, and as well as other sets. I mean, like the courtroom and the sunny market. I was staring at every detail, just thinking. I mean, I just can't imagine how long it would have taken to get that set looking right. Ian, you know, as the
You guys should tell them how long it took to get the grocery store.
Yeah, talk me through that, because that's nuts. Like, there's a lot of detail there.
Oh yeah, they work for months, you know, getting all of the details, the canned goods, you know, all of those different things together. And I actually joined after a lot of the hard work was complete on those graphics and that sort of stuff, which was fantastic to show up and it already be ready. But Set Deck puts in a ton of time, you know, preparing those details and making sure that every angle that we're gonna see is, you know, chock full of great looking stuff. So And there was a lot, outside the windows, outside the, across the street, to sort of help the backlot have our feel as opposed to the standard, thing that we've seen before there. So there were a lot of additional billboards and signage that went into that, to make sure that it
Yeah.
worked for us specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, Halina, when you're thinking about, when I think about a set decorator, not only is it about the little details that you are dressing the set with to give it that authenticity, but I love how a lot of the sets that are so immaculate, but you've made them look really lived in. That's really difficult to do because we're already transported to another time that we're not familiar with. But you want to make it feel like these people are like Catherine Adair's costumes. These people are putting on those shirts. They look a little ruffled, and then their sets look like they are working there. The courtroom is really messy, the jail, whatever it may be. So talk me through that challenge and how difficult it is to dress the sets and to make them look as lived in as they are.
Well, I think one of the great things that we would talk about, basically, what's the basic idea of this set? What's the personality behind it? And Keith and his team and my team, we did so much research, and we really tried to be authentic to the research. And, when we think about the 1930s or any other time period, we might be looking at it through our modern eyes, but we really tried to take our idea of the 1930s out of our heads and just be really authentic. And part of it is, someone said, "Oh, you have nothing up on the walls." And I'm like, well, people didn't have that. They didn't have a lot of decor. So we tried to just bring in personality, like what would they really have, or what would they be lacking? And when you're dressing a Hooverville, that's just bringing in a lot of, old time trash, and because that's what they built with. And so, that was kind of our process, is like, how real can we be?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What was behind the decision, I guess, Keith, you could speak to this one, to submit chapter 11, which is the third episode of season 2. And it's some great sets in that. You've got the court, you've got the jail, and by episode 3, we're really in kind of the thick of the story. So talk me through that decision.
Sure. You just kind of hit on it. It was definitely that one sort of featured some of our more expansive sets. It had the greatest collection of them. Every episode was chock full with some wonderful surprises. It was hard not to pick the episodes with the gambling ships and things like that. But this one had the Hooverville and the new courtroom, which was a fun challenge. We had entertained the idea of actually going back to the same courtroom or season 1 where Perry sort of first, wins his first case. But then sort of landed on the idea that, these courtrooms, all these courtrooms existed in the Department of Justice building, right? So that courtroom, our courtroom in season 2, could literally be down the hall or on a different floor. Mm-hmm. So they shared some architectural aspects, like, window frames and basic architecture and scale and things like that. But we wanted it to have like a different look. So that was one episode. And like you said too, the story was starting to ramp up and become a little more clear of where the season was going, what the case was going to be like. And we get to see Perry's new world, the new apartment that he's moved into. His character is growing and he's dealing with like a lot of trauma. So with the pressure of being a lawyer and where the first case in season 1 ended up with, and then obviously the war trauma, and then so we see him in a new apartment that he never really even moves into. Like that sort of speaks to your last question too, about how some of the details, what people would have, what characters would have in the day and what they wouldn't have. And it was fun just having Perry sort of be uncomfortable. He'd grown up and lived on this farm in season 1, and to be able to move into this apartment, we designed it so that it felt sort of spacious. Yeah. Because he just never embraced like moving in. Right. So he was almost literally in every episode, we would have these discussions with the team about how much he may have or may not have unpacked, in his physical environment. Like you
Yeah.
never even see him sleep in his bed, except in one dream sequence. So
Yeah.
again, like the writers did an incredible job with all this character subtext, and we just thrive off of that, you know, just as a building block for the design and how to, you know, help enhance and tell that story, you know.
Yeah. Actually, I've got a story that when I spoke to Amanda and Susan, they said that when they interviewed you, Keith, for this job, it was very obvious to them that you were, in this is their words, born to design for a show like Perry Mason. And that you said something like, I've been waiting all my life to do this. So I'm curious, given that you get the job, you take over from John Goldsmith, who won the Emmy last season. It's a lot of pressure, and you're now immersed in a project that's like an extension of your passion, your dreams. How the hell does that feel? Not everyone gets that opportunity.
No, it's amazing, and it's incredible that you remember that. I do remember saying that. It was an incredible opportunity, like just to do this period in LA. Like that's always a treat too, to actually work on a show or a series or a film in the actual location where it takes place. I mean, what a great opportunity, and again, what a challenge. Like LA, you know, every year it sort of denudes itself of its history, right? So
Yeah.
so finding things, finding the space, finding the architecture in these places is a great challenge. But again, my buddy John Goldsmith, the fact that he would submit my name as a candidate was an incredible honor. And so I really felt, you know, besides the honor, like this responsibility to sort of, you know, carry on and you know, the challenge of making it bigger and more colorful, let's say, was it was so in my wheelhouse. I really did feel passionate about it, and I couldn't have wanted it more.
I know, like we've all been in that situation. We're going for a job, and it's like you just want to shake that person, say, "Listen, I need this job. This job was for me." I feel like all three of you are in that boat. And Ian, like, actually, it'd be really great if you could explain to our viewers who don't understand the difference between the production designer and the supervising art director. I mean, I know what that means, but perhaps in your words, what's the best way to describe that?
You know, by and large, it was a new role for me to step into. So I would say I'm a great guy to ask that question to, because I got to sort of figure it out with a lot of expert help on this show. And Keith had so much, he has so much experience in the role that I got to occupy, and so much experience as a production designer, that if I ever felt stuck or there was an issue, he was exactly the person to be, that you want right next to you, you know, helping you out of that situation. But he really comes up with the vision, and he and Halina talk about the possibilities and the nuts and bolts that it's going to take to get these sets delivered. And then a lot of my role was to sort of stick with the logistics of it and make sure that the different parts moved into place on time. Halina's whole team kind of handles their side of things without a whole lot of supervision from the art department, but we work together, you know, and it's more about being a coordinator for those efforts than anything else. You know, as far as the art side of it, I get to be involved in some of the decisions and in influencing a couple of things, but really I'm there to facilitate making sure everything happens, you know, and that it comes together.
You need a really good art director and art team on shows like this, or it just doesn't happen. Like you're so integral to the look of the show. And then Halina, I always wonder this, and I know this is a little tongue in cheek, but after all the effort you go to dress that set and make it look immaculate, don't you just sometimes think, can the actors just not get in the way and not ruin it? Does that ever come up in your mind?
No, you know, part of the fun of our job is not only the creative input we get, but it's the delight when the actors walk onto a set and they're transported to another world. And that is the biggest payoff. I mean, that's part of the reason I do this job, other than working with lovely people and, doing fun projects, but it's really facilitating and bringing delight to the actors so that they have a really awesome platform to work in.
Yeah, I know. I've been on some of those sets, and it's just incredible. You do feel transported. It's like you're going through a portal. It's really special what you guys do. I really appreciate your time today, and congratulations on the Emmy nomination. I hope you win.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.